Paper Nautilus by Marianne Moore. For authorities whose hopes are shaped by mercenaries, writers entrapped by tea time fame and by commuters' comforts, not for these, the paper nautilus constructs her thin glass shell, giving her perishable souvenir of hope, a dull white outside and smooth edged inner surface, glossy as the sea. The watchful maker of it guards it day and night. She scarcely eats until the eggs are hatched, buried eightfold in her 8 arms, for she is in a sense a devilfish. Her glass, ramshorn, cradled freight is hid but is not crushed. As Hercules, bitten by a crab loyal to the hydra, was hindered to succeed, the intensively watched eggs coming from the shell free it when they are freed, leaving its wasp nest flaws of white on white and close, laid ionic chitin folds like the lines in the mane of a Parthenon horse, round which the arms had wound themselves as if they knew love is the only fortress strong enough to trust to. About this poem, the Paper Nautilus is anthologized in the Faber Book of Modern Verse, edited by Michael Roberts. In her article, Two Kinds of Vision in Marianne Moore, published by Johns Hopkins University Press, A.K. Weatherhead wrote, quote, "The principle implicit throughout Marianne Moore's work that attention must be paid to details and that the truth and feeling must be based on the perception of them is clearly embodied in the Paper Nautilus. These intensively watched details give rise to the conclusion that love is the only fortress strong enough to trust to. The scrutinized details which produce the moral judgment also express personal feelings. The Paper Nautilus is in a sense the poet herself, who, working indeed with paper, constructs a form, a part of herself, in which to foster and deliver her ideas, these coming from the shell free it when they are freed, and leave evidence of the love and care that had encompassed them. In such a way, the poem expresses with extreme reticence the complex of personal feelings, conflicting senses of freedom and deprivation that attend the poetic act." End quote.
Redlands raised John Jorgenson is one of the top musicians to emerge from the Inland Empire. By the mid-1970s, Jorgenson felt that he was ready to perform regularly on stages beyond the Inland Empire. After graduating a semester early from Redlands High School, Jorgenson began the 1974 spring semester by attending the University of Redlands School of Music, where his father was a professor. He auditioned for and was hired for a 1974 summer job at Disneyland in Anaheim. He played guitar in an 8-piece band backing a musical revue known as the Kids of the Kingdom. They would play top 40, Broadway, and patriotic tunes for 5 30-minute sets daily. After the Kids of the Kingdom job ended, he took a semester off from college to work on his music career. Jorgenson played in an OC group called Sunburst. There were also part-time music jobs at Disneyland. He returned to the University of Redlands for the spring semester of 1975 to resume his studies. In the mid-70s, Jorgenson joined an Inland Empire group, Your Kind of People. Among many local appearances, they also had a weekly Sunday gig on Disneyland's Tomorrowland Terrace. In the band with Jorgenson was future smooth jazz and funk Grammy Award winner Gerald Albright. He played saxophone and occasional bass. The two were undergraduates in the University of Redlands School of Music. John recruited Gerald to join Your Kind of People. The group leader was drummer Gary Yauch, a University of Redlands School of Music graduate and Banning High School band director. Gary's wife, Sheila, was also a University of Redlands School of Music graduate. She sang and occasionally played sax and keyboards. The couple went on to direct Riverside City College's marching band, winter guard, and indoor percussion for some 32 years. Bassist Steve Williams was the youngest member of the group. Williams joined Your Kind of People while still a student of Gary Yauch's at Banning High School. John Jorgenson, impressed with his playing, campaigned for Williams to join Your Kind of People. Steve later became a bandmate of Jorgenson's in one of his future IE groups. Today, Williams is based in New Mexico and continues to play music. In 2019, 4 of the 5 members of the mid-1970s Your Kind of People had an informal reunion at the NAMM show in Anaheim. It was the first time in some 40 years that they had been together in the same place. During his senior year at the University of Redlands, Jorgenson was still performing classical music and receiving local press coverage, like this May 1978 appearance with the Paris of the West Bassoon Quartet, who gave their second annual Sunrise concert among the book racks of the Armacost Library on the University of Redlands campus. Jorgenson graduated from U of R with a degree in music performance and woodwinds in June 1978. Also in June 1978, Jorgenson was one of 6 musicians featured in the 27th annual Young Artists Concert at the Redlands Bowl. He played the bassoon. Jorgenson earned a scholarship to attend the summer 1978 Aspen Music Festival in Colorado as a jazz bass player. He accepted it as long as he could also play the bassoon in their classical program. Needing meal money, he auditioned for a local band looking for an acoustic jazz bass player. But it turned out that they weren't really performing jazz, but were playing noted mandolinist David Grisman's first album. While in this group, Jorgenson was exposed to the sound of the mandolin night after night, and he liked what he heard. Grisman was also to make a future impact in Jorgenson's music career. In 1979, Jorgenson's friend Dick Hardwick was working at Disneyland. He was tasked with putting together a group that could play both bluegrass and Dixieland music in separate park locations. He asked John if he knew anybody that could play bluegrass fiddle and Dixieland cornet. Needing a job, Jorgenson answered, "I can play mandolin and clarinet." Jorgenson got the gig, and so began his 1979 return to Disneyland. He, of course, was exaggerating about his skill on the mandolin, but he took a crash course on the instrument. The Bluegrass Band ended up being the Thunder Mountain Boys, who would play 4 morning sets in Frontierland. After their morning sets, the boys would change outfits and instruments, then play Dixieland music in the afternoon as the Main Street Maniacs. Jorgenson would play either clarinet or soprano sax. What was originally to be a 3-month job turned into a full-time, 7-hour, 6 days a week gig. Around this time, Jorgenson discovered the music of famed jazz guitarist Django Reinhardt. Jorgenson admired his flashiness, considering him to be the Jimi Hendrix of acoustic guitar. After learning elements of Django's style, he looked for a place to showcase his new abilities. Jorgenson suggested to his Disneyland bandmates that they form a third group to play 1930s jazz music. This group became known as the Rhythm Brothers. They performed their music in New Orleans Square and Frontierland's Golden Horseshoe Saloon. In December 1981, John returned to Redlands and performed in a Christmas concert alongside his parents, James and Lorraine, at the local Presbyterian church. Concurrently with his Disneyland performances, Jorgenson began playing the LA nightclub scene when he joined a number of bands playing the circuit. In 1979, Jorgenson joined an Inland Empire new wave group, Neo Paris and the Futures. He brought along Steve Williams, the bass player from his previous IE band, Your Kind of People. The band booked Inland Empire dates at local clubs. This 1979 show took place at the Squeeze in Riverside. They were third billed to two other IE groups, Corona's Bullet Boys and Riverside's Neophonics. In January 1980, they were the subject of a story in a local newspaper. The article reported, "The band is involved with a homegrown project to bring the 12 best bands in the Inland Empire together for a showcase performance and eventual album." That album was the KCAL, California Association for Neurologically Handicapped Children, homegrown benefit album. Their contribution was a song entitled I Want to Be Your Friend. Eventually the band broke into the Orange County, LA new wave scene, opening for such bands as the Suburban Lawns, Berlin, and Viva Beat. After leaving the Neo Paris band in mid-1980, Jorgenson joined another Inland Empire group, rockabilly band The Shaking Snakes. Scott Shepard was from Rialto and was previously a member of Redlands band Rockin' Pneumonia. Jeff Ross was from Ontario. Jorgenson sang and played upright bass, which occasionally included acrobatic stunts on the instrument. In 1983, they were featured on the album LA Rockabilly, alongside other local artists appearing on the LA music scene. A Shakin' Snakes single, Showdown, with the B-side Billy Club, was released in 1984. Simultaneously with the Shakin' Snakes, Jorgenson was also a member of country rock band the Cheatin' Hearts. They played the LA club scene at such venues as the Palomino and the Club Lingerie. Along with Jorgenson were vocalist Kitra Moore, rhythm guitarist vocalist Bob Knight, veteran musician Sneaky Pete Kleinow was on pedal steel guitar. Bassist Bill Bryson and drummer Steve Duncan were later to join Jorgenson in his breakthrough group, the Desert Rose Band. In Part 3, the story continues with John Jorgenson getting his big break when he joined the Desert Rose Band. This JONI Mitchell archive collection is quickly turned into one of my favorites of all. And as I delved, deeper into it, this is 5 discs, and it includes, a continuation of her conversation with Cameron Crowe. They started examining these years from 1968 to 71 as her songwriting is really coming together and your popularity is on the rise. And they center in this sort of magical things that she feels that happened to her along the way. She goes on to talk about playing at in this coffee house in March of 1968. The management comes back and they go, Jimi Hendrix is out there and he has this box and he wants to talk with you.
The night I met Jimmy, he came after his show with a reel-to-reel tape recorder because there weren't cassettes. There was a big box with reel-to-reel. And he said to me very shyly, "Do you mind if I take your show?" And he set it up on the stage. So I played most of the evening down to Jimmy, like giving me yes, and doing tape reversal. He did all sorts of, like he made me go, because we played it back that night at the hotel. We all stayed in the same hotel.
And he really wanted to meet her because she had a song about a mermaid. So she and Jimmy and Mitch Mitchell are, they're all together the rest of the night, listening to music, just building this relationship, but she never sees him again. And someone steals the tape. And so this whole show was sort of lost, but her connection to Jimmy isn't. As she starts putting together the box set, the tape shows up. And that wonderful, very long set that's recorded by Jimi Hendrix is part of this box set. So there's a lot of magical, moments that happen with her. Certainly there's conversations about, Graham Nash and how, her response to the song Our House and, how she thinks this is a really good song about telling this kind of tranquil moment in time that they had. But conversely, she's going to play at Woodstock, and the management says, well, we'll never get you out of there in time to do the Dick Cavett show. So she skips, Woodstock, and she's at her hotel, watching these goings on and writes a song about it. She's at the Dick Cavett show, and here's Crosby, Stills, and Nash. They show up, crash the show, and she realizes that she could have played at Woodstock. And so that's the thing that's taken away from her. But then they record that song, and she becomes even more famous, based on this experience that she didn't have. So there's moments that go all through this set of live performances mostly, and she's getting better and better and better as a songwriter, and she's building up to Blue, tidbits and relationships that pepper this conversation, but you see them play out in her music, and you realize that her true gift was being able to hone to the more personal part of her nature and not being afraid to share that in music. She's a very vulnerable person at times, but she spins it inside out and writes these series of songs that go deeper and deeper and deeper. Some people warned her that, you're, as a songwriter, if you write these real personal songs, you're not going to get them covered. But she remembers talking with John Lennon.
I mean, when I met John Lennon, it was during his last year in L.A., and he came up to me and he said, "Oh, it's all a product of our education. You want a hit, don't you?" I was cutting Court and Spark. He was cutting across the hall. So I played him something from Court and Spark, and he said, "You want a hit, don't you? Put some fiddles on it. Why do you always let other people have your hits for you,
So you get a lot of insights of her connections to others. To the 5th disc, where there's a BBC recording that she does where James Taylor's part of it.
wonderful musicianship. Both of them are really consummate musicians, and she's playing dulcimer. And there's a really great insight to how she'll take an idea and make it her own. She buys this dulcimer for $200, and the person who made it is telling her, you need to play it like a feather. And Joni's, picking at it and hitting it, and she's going, no, you're not supposed to, be banging on the dulcimer. And yet she goes, well, most people will play it with a feather. This is the way I'm going to play it. And it affects how she plays guitar later on. And there's this kind of percussiveness that she builds into her songs moving forward just by being herself. Her interaction between this guitar, this dulcimer, and then her voice just sailing above this music, and you realize that by this time she's arrived. She's found out who she is, and she never stops.
From just a little bit.